Greetings, my cherished friends. I'm truly delighted that you've joined me today. There is something profoundly meaningful about sharing stories, especially when they touch the heart, as this one does. It's a story that has been on my mind for some time now, and I can't wait to share it with you. I've been waiting for the perfect moment, and I believe that moment is now. This isn't just any story. It's a story that ties us to something timeless, something that transcends generations. It's about a tradition that's been passed down from mother to daughter, from grandmother to granddaughter. And it's a part of something much bigger than just us here today. It's a story of family, of culture, and of how the smallest moments can echo through time and shape who we are. As we embark on this journey together, I want you to know that it's not just the telling of this story that excites me. It's the thought that we're sharing this moment, this connection across space and time. And as you listen, I hope you feel the warmth and significance of what's being shared, because I can promise you, it's more than just a tale. It's a piece of our shared history, something we can hold dear in our hearts long after today. Today, we're going to take a journey not just through time, but through memories. We're going to step back into the past, to a time when the world seemed a little slower, a little kinder, and where traditions were the heartbeat of our communities. This isn't just a story about a festival. It's about what that festival meant to the people who celebrated it and how it brought families together. It's about honoring the past, remembering our roots, and holding on to the values that make us who we are. We'll be looking at the very first Hinamatsuri, or doll festival, told through the eyes of a woman who was there. A woman who still carries the memories of that day with her, as if they happened just yesterday. She was just a little girl back then, filled with wonder, excitement, and the pure joy of a world that was simpler and more connected to tradition. And as she looks back, she can still see the dolls, feel the love of her family, and hear the laughter of the children. Those moments were so precious to her. And I hope that as you hear her story, you'll feel that same sense of warmth and nostalgia too. I know life today can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming with so many things pulling at our attention. But there's something so magical about taking a step back, breathing in the simple joys of life, and reflecting on the beautiful things that have come before us. Stories like this remind us of the importance of family tradition and how the love we share with one another transcends time. By the end of this video, I promise you'll feel that connection to the past, to a time when the world seemed a little quieter, but no less full of love and meaning. And I truly hope that this story, this glimpse into the past, will inspire you to cherish the moments you have now with the ones you love most. So, grab a warm cup of tea, settle in, and let's take this journey together. Trust me, it's going to be a story you won't forget. Now, if you'll allow me, let's take a moment to close our eyes and journey back in time. Imagine we're stepping into the shoes of an elderly woman whose life has been filled with the quiet rhythm of years past. Her memories are like treasures tucked away in the corners of her heart. And one memory in particular stands out: the very first Hinamatsuri, or doll festival, she ever experienced. It's a memory that has stayed with her all her life, one that's as vivid and warm as it was on that first spring day. As we listen to her story, we'll feel the innocence of childhood and the deep connection she has to the traditions that shaped her. Her words are soft, but they carry the weight of years and the love of family. Through her eyes, we'll see the world as it once was, simpler, slower, but filled with the kind of beauty that only comes from truly cherishing the small moments. This isn't just any story. It's a story that we can all hold dear. It's about the joy of being together, the wonder of traditions, and the deep sense of nostalgia that comes when we look back at the things that shaped us. So let's listen closely as she shares this piece of her heart, and let it remind us all of the timeless bonds we share with the past. Before we dive any deeper into this heartwarming journey, I just want to take a moment to express how much I truly appreciate each one of you for being here today. The support you've shown by joining me on this adventure means more than words can express. If you're enjoying the story so far, if it's touched your heart, brought a smile to your face, or made you reflect on your own cherished memories, please consider showing your support by hitting that like button. Every little thumbs up truly helps more than you might think, and it lets me know that these stories are resonating with you. Your support allows me to continue bringing you these meaningful moments, and I am so grateful for each click, each view. And if you've been enjoying the story, why not share it with your friends? If you know someone who would love to hear about these beautiful traditions, these timeless stories, go ahead and spread the word. Let's share these memories far and wide so that they can touch even more hearts. After all, stories like these should never be kept to ourselves. They're meant to bring us closer, to help us connect with each other, and to preserve the beauty of our cultures for generations to come. And if you haven't already, I would be so honored if you would subscribe to the channel. It means the absolute world to me to have you as a part of this incredible community. By subscribing, you're not just supporting the channel, you're helping me keep these stories alive, reaching people who appreciate them as much as I do. With your help, we can continue to share these experiences, these traditions, and these memories with the world. Your support doesn't just make it possible for me to create these videos, it makes it possible for me to continue building this community of people who understand the importance of remembering where we come from and celebrating the beauty of tradition. So, go ahead, click that like button, share this story with someone who would appreciate it, and if you haven't already, subscribe to join us on this wonderful journey. Together, let's keep the love and nostalgia flowing and continue passing these beautiful traditions on for years to come. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for being part of this journey. Believe me when I say you'll want to stay for this story. It's so much more than just dolls and customs. It's a journey through the heart of what truly makes life beautiful. The memories that linger with us through the years, the unbreakable ties of family that shape our souls, and the gentle magic of the past that continues to echo within us. This is a story about the moments that truly matter, the ones we hold close, the ones that shape us, that remind us of who we are and where we come from. These moments are not just fleeting memories that fade with time. No, they are far more than that. They are the very fabric of our lives, woven into the stories we carry with us, stories that define us and guide us as we move forward. They are the quiet yet powerful threads that tie us to our past, to the ones who came before us, and to the traditions that have shaped our world. As we walk through this tale together, we won't simply be revisiting the past. We'll be breathing life back into the warmth of home, into the familiar comforts of the traditions that have stood the test of time. We'll reconnect with the beauty of those customs, the ones that provide us with a sense of belonging, a foundation upon which we stand, even in the most uncertain times. And in doing so, we'll uncover the timeless beauty that endures, that stretches across generations, and that continues to resonate deep within our hearts, no matter how much time passes. Through this journey, we will rediscover the quiet, lasting power of memory, the way it shapes our identities, the way it binds us to our ancestors, and the way it allows us to carry the best of the past with us into the future. We'll feel the presence of those who came before us, not just as distant figures, but as living, breathing parts of our story, as if they are still here with us, guiding us, reminding us of the love and wisdom that continue to flow through us. And as we walk through the moments of this tale, you'll realize that the past is never truly gone. It's alive. It's with us. It's in the very air we breathe and the hearts we carry. These aren't just stories. They are living fragments of our shared history, the delicate threads that weave our lives together across time. They are pieces of love, hope, and connection passed down through generations, and now they are a part of us. They linger in the air, in the moments we cherish, and in the memories we hold dear. So, my dear friends, I invite you to take this journey with me, not as mere listeners, but as participants in this unfolding tale. Let yourself be enveloped in the warmth of the joy, the tenderness, and the wonder that only a story like this can offer. Allow each word, each moment, to stir something deep inside you, a memory, a feeling, a connection to something far greater than ourselves. Trust me, this is not a journey you want to miss. Every moment of it, every word, is a reflection of something timeless, something that will touch your heart in ways you never expected and leave a mark that stays with you long after the story ends. Before we embark on the personal journey of our protagonist, it's important to understand the history and significance of Hinamatsuri, or the Doll Festival, a celebration that has been cherished for centuries in Japan. It is a festival that honors girls and prays for their happiness, health, and prosperity. A tradition steeped in cultural richness and deep symbolism. Hinamatsuri, also known as the Doll Festival or Girls' Day, has roots that trace back to ancient Japan. The festival, celebrated on March 3rd, has evolved over the centuries, but its essence remains unchanged. It is a day to pray for the well-being of young girls and to honor the spirits of the past. It is believed that the festival originated during the Heian period, 794, 1185, when it was first observed as a custom to ward off evil spirits. The practice involved creating small paper dolls and floating them down the river, carrying away misfortune and bad luck. Over time, this evolved into the elaborate celebrations we recognize today, with the display of beautiful hina dolls on tiered platforms representing the Emperor-Empress and their attendants. The dolls themselves are not simply decorative. Each one holds deep symbolism. The Emperor and Empress stand at the top of the platform, representing the ideal balance of power and grace. They are surrounded by attendants, musicians, and guards figures that symbolize harmony, joy, and protection. The dolls represent the aspirations of the family hope for the future of their daughters, protection from harm, and a wish for a long, happy life. Traditionally, the dolls are placed on a 5-tiered platform, each tier representing different levels of importance. The Emperor and Empress sit at the very top while the attendants, musicians, and guards fill the lower levels. This arrangement symbolizes the social structure of Japan, with the Emperor and Empress representing the highest authority and the attendants and musicians symbolizing the harmonious and essential elements of society. As the centuries passed, the festival became a time for families to come together, not just to celebrate, but to reflect on the importance of family and tradition. It is a moment of gratitude, a time to honor ancestors, and a reminder that life, though fleeting, is woven together by the rituals we preserve. Hinamatsuri is celebrated in various ways across Japan, but there are several key customs that remain consistent. Families with daughters display their hina dolls on the tiered platform, arranging them with great care. The dolls are often passed down through generations, treasured as family heirlooms. Special foods are prepared for the occasion, including chirashi zushi, scattered sushi, shirozake, sweet rice wine, and hina arare, small rice crackers, each dish carrying its own symbolic meaning. Children sing traditional songs and play games such as hina, where they toss small rice crackers at each other, and torigo, a game where participants hold hands in a circle, trying to catch each other's hands while singing a melody. These games aren't just for fun. They are also ways to bring the family together in joy, reflecting the spirit of Hinamatsuri, happiness, health, and protection. At the close of the festival, there is an ancient tradition of sending the hina dolls down the river. This custom symbolizes the act of releasing bad spirits and misfortune, ensuring that the coming year will be free of harm. The dolls are carefully placed on a small boat, and the boat is allowed to drift downstream, symbolizing the letting go of worries and the arrival of a new year full of hope and opportunity. Hinamatsuri is much more than a festival. It is a time to reflect on the roles we play in the family, to appreciate the ties that bind us to our past, and to express our hopes and dreams for the future. It is a celebration of life, a prayer for the well-being of young girls, and a reminder that as we honor our ancestors, we are passing their legacy on to the next generation. Now that we have explored the origins and deep significance of Hinamatsuri, it's time to turn our attention to the personal journey of our protagonist. For her, this festival is not merely a tradition observed once a year. It's a deeply transformative experience, one that will influence her understanding of family heritage and the profound impact of passing down cultural practices through generations. As the delicate blossoms of spring begin to bloom and the world comes alive with color and warmth, so too does her understanding of the festival deepen. What once seemed like a simple celebration of dolls, food, and games gradually reveals itself as a powerful and timeless ritual. It is a bridge that connects the past with the present, a tangible link to the values, hopes, and wishes of those who came before her. This is a realization that, while gradual, will stay with her for the rest of her life. As the days of the festival unfold, she begins to see it for what it truly is, not just a joyful occasion, but a celebration of life itself, of the people who came before her, of the traditions they upheld, and of the culture they nurtured. Each doll, each song, and each ritual becomes infused with meaning, symbolizing the strength of her ancestors and their ongoing presence in her life. The act of placing the hina dolls on their tiered platform takes on a sacredness, as if she is not merely arranging decorations, but honoring a legacy, a thread that connects her to the very heart of her family's history. But it's not just about remembering the past. As she witnesses the love, care, and reverence that her family puts into every aspect of the festival, she begins to understand her role in carrying this tradition forward. Hinamatsuri is not just about celebrating the present. It's a way of nurturing the future, a practice that must be passed on to the next generation. The values of love, hope, and respect for the past, which are embodied in this festival, are things she will one day pass on to her own children, and in turn, they will carry it with them for their own lives. In this way, the festival becomes a living thing, growing with her, evolving with the seasons, and continuing on for generations to come. For the protagonist, Hinamatsuri is no longer just a date on the calendar. It is an experience that shapes how she sees herself and her place within her family and culture. It is a reminder that she is part of something much larger than herself, something that transcends time and generations, a timeless tradition that will continue to grow and live on through the love and care that each generation puts into it. And so, as spring's vibrant blooms turn into the warm days of summer, she carries with her the deeper meaning of Hinamatsuri, the understanding that this festival is not just an annual celebration, but a living testament to the bond between generations. It will stay with her, shaping her as she grows and lives, as a constant reminder of the importance of family of heritage and of the power that lies in passing down cultural traditions that connect us all. There was something truly magical about that time of year, something that seemed to stir the very air itself. Spring had arrived in all her glory, painting the world in soft pastels, breathing life back into the earth after the long, cold months of winter. The once crisp, biting air had softened into something gentler, warmer, as if the earth itself was stretching out, slowly awakening from a deep, quiet slumber. It was as though the very ground beneath my feet had shaken off its winter coat and was embracing the promise of a fresh start. The trees, once bare and lifeless, now held delicate buds that swelled with the promise of life, ready to burst open into a riot of color. Pinks, whites, and soft lilacs dotted the branches, each bloom a brushstroke of nature's art, bringing a softness to the landscape that felt almost otherworldly. The wind, still carrying traces of the cold, now seemed lighter, more playful, as it rustled through the new leaves, urging them to dance. The scent of flowers mingled with the earthy smell of fresh rain and damp soil, filling the air with the kind of fragrance that made you close your eyes and inhale deeply, as if trying to capture that fleeting moment of renewal. The whole world felt alive, like it had just awakened from a long winter's dream. There was a lightness to the air, a sense of possibility that seemed to stretch out before me. It was as though nature itself was stepping into a new season, casting off the last remnants of winter, and in doing so, carrying with it a sense of hope and growth. The days grew longer, the sunlight warmer, and every small change, every tiny bud that peeked out from the earth seemed to whisper, "This is a time of new beginnings." The village itself seemed to come alive with the season. The ground, still damp from the melting snow, smelled rich and earthy, full of new life. It was a time of renewal, a moment when everything seemed to pause just for a second and take a deep breath. The days grew longer, and the sun began to feel warmer on the skin, gently coaxing the flowers to bloom and the birds to sing their songs. I would run through the fields with the breeze in my hair, the sound of my footsteps light and carefree, as the world around me seemed to hum with the promise of something beautiful ahead. But it wasn't just the land that was awakening. It was the spirit of the people too. There was a kind of quiet excitement in the village as everyone began to prepare for the arrival of Hinamatsuri, the doll festival. For us, it was more than just a festival. It was a sign that something had changed. Something was beginning. The long winter had kept us inside close to our families, but with the warmth of spring came a new energy, a new sense of togetherness. I could feel it in the way my mother's voice carried a little more cheer, the way the women gathered in the village square to share ideas and preparations. I remember one afternoon I came running into the house, my face flushed with the warmth of the sun. "Mama, what's happening? Why is everyone so busy?" I asked, my voice filled with curiosity as I tugged on her sleeve. She looked down at me with a soft smile, her eyes gleaming with a special kind of warmth that only mothers seem to have. "It's Hinamatsuri, my dear, the doll festival. A time to celebrate girls like you, to honor the season and all its beauty. We prepare for this day to bring good fortune, health, and happiness." Her words were simple, but I could hear the reverence in her voice, the way she seemed to hold the festival in such high regard. I didn't fully understand what it meant yet, but there was something about the way she spoke that made me feel like it was the most important thing in the world. It was as if this festival wasn't just about dolls or rituals. It was about us, about family, and about remembering how connected we all were to the land and to each other. As the days grew warmer, the entire village seemed to come together in preparation. Women began to gather, whispering excitedly about the arrangements, about the dolls, about the foods to be prepared. I would often sneak into their conversations, catching snippets of laughter and planning. And the air was thick with anticipation. My own mother began to set up the home carefully, placing flowers on the windowsills, cleaning and organizing as if we were preparing for something truly grand. The house felt different in those days, alive, full of purpose, and filled with the promise of something magical. I remember running outside in the early mornings, eager to see the world around me come to life. The cherry blossoms were just beginning to open their petals, delicate and soft, and the whole village seemed to be bathed in their pink glow. I'd stand beneath those trees looking up at the sky, feeling the sun warm my face, and think to myself that spring had arrived, bringing with it the promise of new beginnings, of joy and of family. There was something about those cherry blossoms, their fleeting beauty, that made everything feel so precious. "Why is this festival so important, Mama?" I asked one evening as we prepared dinner together. I wanted to understand, wanted to know why this time of year seemed so different from all the others. She paused, her hands stilling as she looked out the window at the blossoms in the distance. "Because, my dear," she said softly, "Hinamatsuri is a way to celebrate the beauty of life and the girls who are growing up. It's a day to honor those who came before us, to remember the blessings we have, and to wish for the health and happiness of our family." She turned to me, then her gaze gentle but firm. It's a reminder that no matter what happens, we have each other and we have our traditions to keep us strong. Her words stayed with me long after that conversation, like the scent of the spring flowers that lingered in the air long after the breeze had passed. There was something deeply comforting about the way she spoke, something that made me believe in the power of tradition, of remembering where we come from, and of cherishing every moment with those we love. As the days passed, the excitement around the festival only grew. My mother carefully unpacked the dolls from their boxes, delicate porcelain figures wrapped in soft cloth, each one with a specific place and meaning. I would sit and watch wide-eyed as she arranged them on the tiered platform. The emperor and empress, the attendants, the musicians, they all stood in their designated spots as if ready to watch over us. The village, too, began to take on a festive air. Colorful lanterns were hung outside the homes, and the scent of delicious foods began to fill the streets. Chirashi zushi sweet rice cakes and delicate sweets, all carefully prepared for the celebration. The men and women of the village, who had once been so busy with their daily lives, now paused to prepare to celebrate, to come together. There was a sense of unity in the air, as if the entire village was holding its breath in anticipation of the festival. And so, in the soft warmth of the spring air, under the pink and white canopy of cherry blossoms, the first Hinamatsuri began to take shape. It was a time that would mark the beginning of something special, not just for me, but for the entire village. A time to honor the past, to celebrate the present, and to lay the foundation for traditions that would be passed down for generations to come. The air buzzed with anticipation, and I could feel it deep in my heart that this first Hinamatsuri was just the beginning of something beautiful, something I would remember for the rest of my life. As I sit here now, reflecting on that long ago time, I can almost feel the excitement I had as a little girl, full of wonder and joy. I can remember how my heart would race at the thought of the festival Hinamatsuri, the first time we would celebrate it as a village. At that time, it felt like we were all part of something magical, something that would shape us forever. Back then, I was just a small girl, only 8 or 9, but I could sense that this was no ordinary event. The spring air seemed to carry an extra bit of excitement, a kind of anticipation that made everything feel special. I remember the feeling of waking up in the morning, the sunlight streaming through the window, and hearing the soft sounds of my mother bustling around the house, getting everything ready for the festival. "Mama, Mama, what's going to happen today? Will we have the dolls?" I would ask, my voice filled with curiosity and excitement. My tiny hands would clutch the hem of her kimono, pulling at it impatiently, as if that simple question could hold all the answers. She would smile down at me, her eyes twinkling with affection. "Yes, little one, we will prepare the dolls today." It's time to honor you, to celebrate the girls in our family." The way she spoke about it with such reverence made my heart flutter. I could sense that this wasn't just a celebration, it was something sacred, something meaningful. The first time I saw the dolls wrapped carefully in their cloth coverings, my breath caught in my throat. They were unlike anything I had ever seen before. So delicate, so beautiful. Each one seemed to hold a story within it, a piece of our future and our past. "Mama, do you think the dolls will bring me good fortune?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, as I gazed at them in awe. My tiny fingers hovered over the emperor and empress, who stood so proudly at the top of the tiered platform. They seemed so real, their faces serene and wise, as if they had seen the world and carried its secrets. My mother chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "These dolls are our wishes for your future, my dear. They're here to protect you, to bring you happiness and good health. They carry the hopes of our family." I nodded, although I didn't fully understand, but something inside me stirred a deep feeling of connection to those dolls and to the tradition they represented. I remember looking at the tiered display and feeling as though I were a part of something much larger than myself, a thread in a tapestry woven by generations of women before me. And so with each passing day, the excitement grew. The house was filled with the soft sounds of preparations of food being prepared, of laughter shared, and of whispered conversations about the festival. I would run to my mother at every opportunity, asking more questions, my excitement growing with each moment. "What will we eat on Hinamatsuri? Mama, will there be sweet rice cakes? Will we sing the songs?" My mother would laugh and gather me in her arms, whispering promises of the foods we would enjoy: chirashi sushi, sweet rice cakes, and the special drinks that would be shared with family. But more than that, I remember her telling me stories about the festival's meaning, the origins of the dolls, and how they had come to represent not just good fortune, but the strength and grace of the women in our family. I remember the day the festival arrived, the sun shining brightly through the open windows, casting warm rays on everything it touched. Our home felt alive, filled with the scents of cooking, the sound of children's laughter, and the soft voices of the elders as they shared stories of past celebrations. "Mama, it's finally here." "The day of the dolls," I exclaimed, running through the house, unable to contain my excitement. It was as if the whole world had come to a standstill, waiting for this very moment. In those days, everything seemed brighter, more vibrant. The festival wasn't just about the dolls. It was about family, about the connections we shared, and about the generations that had come before us. As I stood by the tiered display, my heart swelling with pride, I felt that deep sense of belonging, of knowing that I was a part of something that had been passed down through the ages. And as the dolls stood in their place so perfect and regal, I couldn't help but feel that this first Hinamatsuri wasn't just a new tradition. It was a moment in time that would stay with me forever. a memory woven into the very fabric of my life, one I would carry with me always, and one I would pass down to my own children and grandchildren. The morning of the festival arrived with a fresh breeze carrying the sweet scent of cherry blossoms that filled the air and the sound of birds singing as though celebrating with us. The house was bustling with activity. I watched as Mama and the other women of the village worked diligently preparing for the festival. But nothing compared to the moment when I saw the dolls, the beautiful hina dolls being revealed for the first time. Mama had always spoken of them with reverence, but now, as the cloth wrappings were carefully removed, I was seeing them with my own eyes. The Emperor and Empress stood tall and proud at the top of the tiered platform, their robes rich with embroidery, their faces serene and dignified. Their presence seemed to fill the room as if they were watching over us, preparing to protect and bless our home. I stood in awe, my heart swelling with a mix of excitement and wonder. I had seen these dolls before, stored carefully away each year. But today, they felt different. They weren't just objects to admire. They were something much more. They were the heart of the festival, the keepers of our wishes, Mama. I asked, my voice filled with curiosity. Why are these dolls so important? What do they mean? Mama smiled at me, her eyes soft with affection, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. She simply reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face before answering. These dolls, my dear, are not just for decoration. They represent the Emperor and Empress, the guardians of our home. They protect us from bad spirits, and they carry our hopes and wishes for happiness, health, and prosperity. I could feel the weight of her words settle into my chest. The dolls weren't just beautiful figures. They were a living symbol of our family's wishes and love, standing as silent guardians over our lives. Mama gently lifted the Emperor, his face calm and commanding, and placed him at the very top of the platform. The Emperor represents strength and protection. He is the one who guides us, just as we hope for guidance in our lives. I watched intently, my eyes wide, as Mama then placed the Empress beside him. She was equally majestic, with a quiet strength in her expression, and her kimono shimmered in the light. And this is the Empress, Mama continued. She brings grace, harmony, and love. She symbolizes the feminine strength that balances the power of the Emperor. Together, they are a perfect harmony, a reminder that we must have both strength and kindness to live well. As I looked at the dolls, I could see how they were more than just figures to be admired. They were the foundation of the festival, the embodiment of the balance that our family, our home needed to thrive. The platform wasn't just for the Emperor and Empress, though. On the next tier, there were the attendants, musicians, and guards. I placed the first attendant beside the Empress, as Mama had shown me, and felt the weight of her role in our family. These attendants are the caretakers, the ones who help keep everything in order, Mama explained. They remind us of the importance of service and care for one another. I nodded, feeling the quiet strength in the small figure as I carefully placed her in her spot. Each doll was like a piece of the puzzle, each one playing its part in the larger picture of our family's values. Next came the musicians. They held their instruments, their faces joyful, ready to play. Mama smiled as she placed them on the platform. These musicians represent joy and celebration. They remind us to always find time for happiness, for music, and for the things that make life beautiful. I loved the musicians, their instruments glinting in the soft light, as if they would come to life and fill our home with song. Their presence seemed to lift the mood, reminding us that no matter how serious life could be, there was always room for joy. Lastly, at the bottom of the platform stood the guards. They were strong, serious, their faces set in expressions of determination. The guards protect what is most precious to us, Mama said, as I placed them on their tier. They remind us of the importance of protection and vigilance, of standing strong when challenges come our way. I stepped back, looking at the entire display. The dolls, each so different, were beautifully arranged in their tiers, and yet together they formed something harmonious. They weren't just figures on a platform. They were the wishes, the hopes, the values that we held dear, all brought to life in the most beautiful way. Mama stood beside me, her arm around my shoulders, as we admired the display together. These dolls represent the wishes we have for you, for our family, and for the generations before us. Every year, when we place them, we remind ourselves of what is truly important: family love, protection, joy, and strength. I looked up at her, my heart full, and for the first time, I truly understood. The dolls weren't just decorations or part of a tradition, they were the heartbeat of the festival. They were there to remind us of what we had, what we needed, and what we hoped for in the future. And so as the lanterns flickered in the soft evening light, I knew that this first Hinamatsuri would always hold a special place in my heart. It was the beginning of something beautiful, a tradition that would live on generation after generation, and now it was a part of me. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow across the house as Mama, my sisters, and I carefully arranged the hina ningyo on the tiered platform. It was a task we had been preparing for, and it felt like the culmination of all the anticipation, all the preparation that had gone into the festival. The room was filled with the scent of freshly cut flowers, incense, and the soft hum of excitement. I stood by watching Mama's every move as she guided the dolls into place. She was so meticulous, so deliberate, as if each doll were a treasured part of our family's story, meant to stand in its exact place, embodying something more than just a decorative figure. My sisters and I, each with our own part to play, followed her lead with equal care, ensuring that the dolls were arranged just so. As we placed each doll, Mama would share its significance with me, speaking softly, her words rich with meaning. "Look, my dear," she said, as she carefully set the emperor at the top of the platform beside the Empress. This is where we begin with the Emperor. He represents strength, authority, and protection. He is the symbol of the head of the household, the one who is meant to guide and protect not only our family, but our community. I watch the Emperor's porcelain face with admiration. His regal posture, the delicate folds of his robes, and his steady gaze seem to bring a sense of calm and security to the room. Mama had said that the Emperor's role was to protect the family, to ensure the well-being of everyone within it, and I could feel that power emanating from him even without words. Beside him stood the Empress, her gentle expression contrasting with the Emperor's strong demeanor. Mama arranged her with equal care, positioning her just so. The Empress represents grace, harmony, and compassion, Mama continued. She is the one who nurtures the home, who cares for the family, and brings balance to all that the Emperor provides. Together, they remind us that both strength and love are essential in keeping a family whole. The Empress's soft smile seemed to calm my racing heart, her serene gaze making the room feel more peaceful. Her role, Mama explained, was to foster unity and love within the family, to nurture the spirit of the home and make it a place of warmth and safety. As Mama stepped back to admire the Emperor and Empress together, I felt a deep connection to them, as if they were watching over us, guiding us toward a future filled with harmony, strength, and love. Next, we began to arrange the attendants and musicians, each with its own meaning. I carefully placed the first attendant beside the Empress, her hands held in front of her, her posture humble but graceful. This one, Mama explained, her voice soft, represents service and loyalty. She is the one who attends to the needs of the household, ensuring that everything runs smoothly. The role of the attendants is a reminder that love and care are often shown in the quiet, unnoticed actions we take to help one another. As I placed the attendant in her place, I thought about the little things Mama did every day, the care she put into making every meal, the way she kept our home tidy and warm. I understood now that those were the acts of love, the ones that mattered most, even when they went unseen. Next came the musicians, each holding an instrument poised as if they were about to begin a song. I placed the first musician beside the Emperor, her delicate fingers lightly touching her flute, her expression joyful and free. These musicians remind us to celebrate life, Mama said, smiling. They bring joy, and their music fills the home with happiness. It's important to find joy, even in the most challenging times. The thought of music filled me with warmth. I imagined the soft sound of the flute, the gentle melodies that would lift our spirits and fill our home with peace. The musicians were a reminder that even in a world filled with work and responsibility, we must always make time for beauty and celebration. As I finished arranging the dolls, I stood back to look at the complete display. It was like a story unfolding before my eyes, a story about the importance of family love, strength, and joy. The emperor and empress stood proudly at the top, while the attendants and musicians filled the space beneath them, each figure a symbol of something that made our family whole. Mama stood beside me, her hand resting gently on my shoulder as we gazed at the display together. "You see, my dear," she said softly, "the dolls are not just decorations. They are a reflection of the values we hold dear in our family. They represent the balance of strength and kindness, the importance of nurturing and protecting, and the joy we find in each other's company." I looked at the dolls again this time with a deeper understanding. The dolls were more than just part of a tradition. They were a reminder of the values that we would carry with us throughout our lives. The emperor and empress standing side by side were the foundation of it all. And the attendants, musicians, and guards, each of them had a role to play, each of them contributing to the harmony and strength of the family. As the evening light faded, the glow of the lanterns filled the room, casting a soft golden hue on the dolls. I could feel the warmth of the festival settle around me, a sense of connection to the past, to the present, and to the future. This first Hinamatsuri would forever be etched in my memory, not just as a celebration, but as a lesson in love, strength, and the importance of family. The sun had begun to dip beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the house, and the air was thick with the warmth of anticipation. The smell of simmering fish, sweet rice, and the delicate fragrance of pickled vegetables filled the kitchen. Mama, my sisters, and I worked side by side, our movements synchronized, each of us contributing to the feast that would mark the culmination of our Hinamatsuri celebration. I stood at the counter, carefully helping Mama prepare the chirashi zushi, a colorful rice dish topped with delicate slices of fish, vegetables, and a sprinkle of sweet pickled ginger. The rice, fragrant and sticky, was the perfect base, and I watched in awe as Mama expertly arranged the toppings, her hands moving with precision. The dish was more than just food. It was a symbol of the care and love that went into every meal in our family. "Remember, dear," Mama said, her voice warm but focused as she placed a piece of sashimi on top of the rice. "Each piece of food has its place. The chirashi zushi is meant to represent harmony, the balance of all the flavors coming together. It's a reminder of how our family, with all its differences, comes together as one." I smiled, feeling the weight of her words. As I added the last of the vegetables, the dish took on a beauty of its own. The colors were vibrant orange, green, pink, and yellow, all carefully arranged in a way that seemed to capture the essence of spring itself. It was a dish of life, of joy, and of family. Meanwhile, my sisters were busy preparing the shirozake, the sweet sake that would be served during the celebration. I could hear their laughter as they gently stirred the rice and water, adding a touch of sweetness that would turn the drink into something warm and comforting. The soft, bubbling sound of the brew was soothing, a reminder of the years of tradition passed down to us, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride as I watched my sisters working together. Mama's voice rose above the chatter of the kitchen. When we prepare these foods, we're not just making a meal, we're honoring the tradition of our ancestors. Each dish is a way of giving thanks, a way of celebrating our lives and our connections to one another. I nodded, understanding now that this wasn't just about the food. It was about the act of coming together as a family, of preparing something beautiful with our hands and hearts. As we added the final touches to the dishes, there was a sense of unity in the air, a bond that felt stronger than ever before. My father entered the kitchen, his arms open wide as he took in the sight of the preparations. "It smells wonderful in here," he said, his voice full of admiration. "You've all worked so hard. This is what makes a family strong, the time we spend together, the love we share in every meal." We all gathered around the table, the dishes laid out before us, the chirashi zushi, the shirozake, the delicate sweets that Mama had prepared. All of it looked so beautiful, so full of care. The colors of the food seemed to match the vibrant hues of the spring outside, as though the world itself was celebrating with us. As we sat together, the warmth of the room enveloped us, wrapping us in a sense of comfort and belonging that felt almost tangible. The flickering light from the lanterns cast a soft glow on our faces, and in that moment, I could feel the deep connection between us, not just as a family, but as a part of something much larger, something timeless. The air was filled with the aroma of our meal, the rich, comforting scents that had taken hours to prepare each dish, infused with love and care. The act of preparing the meal together had drawn us closer, weaving us into a collective bond that was both tender and unspoken. Now, as we sat together at the table, sharing the fruits of our labor, I felt a quiet peace settle over me, a peace that seemed to rise from the very heart of the tradition we had just celebrated. The food, the laughter, the conversations that wove in and out of one another, all of it felt so perfectly aligned, so right. The clinking of cups, the soft murmur of voices, and the shared glances between us, it was a symphony of simple joy of connection. Each smile, each moment of shared understanding felt like a silent promise that this tradition, this love would continue. There was a magic in those moments, not the kind that can be seen, but the kind that lives in the spaces between words, in the quiet comfort of being surrounded by the ones you love. It wasn't just the meal we were sharing, it was the bond. We had the history that had brought us here and the future we would continue to build together. And as I sat there, wrapped in the warmth of family and tradition, I knew that this was where true happiness lay, in the simplicity of these moments, in the connections that we nurtured, and in the quiet love that passed between us all. May this festival bring us all the happiness and health we wish for my father. said, raising his glass of shirozake. To family, to tradition, and to the love we share. We all raised our glasses, the clink of the cups echoing through the room. The moment was simple, but in that simplicity, there was an overwhelming sense of joy, of gratitude. It wasn't just about the food, or the dolls, or the celebration itself. It was about the people we shared it with. It was about the memories we were creating together. I looked around at my family, Mama, Papa, my sisters, and I felt a warmth in my chest that wasn't just from the food, but from the love that filled the room. In those moments, I knew that Hinamatsuri wasn't just a festival. It was a celebration of everything that made our family what it was. The unity, the joy, and the love that we shared in even the simplest of moments. As we ate and laughed together, the world outside seemed to fade away, and it was just us together in this moment. And I knew deep in my heart that this was what Hinamatsuri truly meant, not just a tradition, not just a celebration, but a reminder that family is the heart of everything. The food, the dolls, the laughter, all of it was a reflection of the love and unity that defined us. And I would carry that feeling with me forever. As the soft light of the evening settled around us, casting long shadows across the room, I found myself sitting beside my grandmother, listening to her gentle voice as she spoke. Her hands, though aged and worn, still held a grace that spoke of years spent in service to her family, to the traditions that had been passed down through generations. Do you remember, child? She began, her voice a mixture of fondness and nostalgia. How we used to celebrate Hinamatsuri when I was young. It wasn't like it is today, you know. Back then, everything felt different. The festival wasn't as grand, as flashy, or as decorated as it is now. But it was filled with so much more meaning, so much more heart. I looked at her, my heart swelling with curiosity. The lines on my grandmother's face, etched by years of wisdom and experience, only seemed to deepen as she spoke, each one a story in itself. Her eyes, though clouded with age, sparkled with the vivid memories of a time long past, a time that seemed both distant and incredibly close. It was as if she could reach into the fabric of time and pull out the most cherished pieces, handing them to me like treasures. I could almost see the past unfolding before me as she spoke. She had lived through so much, through times of joy and hardship alike. Yet her stories always had the power to transport me to another world. A world where traditions were carried out with reverence and love, where every gesture, no matter how small, was a way to honor those who came before. In her voice, I could hear the echo of those simpler days when the festival wasn't marked by extravagance, but by the quiet devotion of family, where the act of placing a doll on the platform wasn't just a routine, but a sacred ritual, a connection to the spirits of the past. Her words painted a picture of a world where Hinamatsuri wasn't about the splendor or the size of the display, but about the deep meaning behind every movement, every prayer whispered for the health and happiness of the children. I could almost see my grandmother, a young girl herself, carefully arranging the dolls on a small, humble platform, the same way I had done years later, feeling the weight of tradition in her hands. And as I sat there listening, I realized that the significance of those early days wasn't just in the ceremony, but in the quiet love that had shaped it. The festival, in its simplicity, had been an expression of gratitude, a way of honoring not just the present, but the generations before them, those who had given everything to make sure these traditions lived on. When I was a little girl, we didn't have the elaborate displays. Like today, she continued, a slight smile touching her lips. Our family would gather in the small rooms of our home, and the dolls were set up on a simple wooden table. There were no bright lanterns or decorations. It was just the dolls, the family, and the quiet joy of being together. Her words lingered in the air, and I could almost see the scene in my mind. A humble room, the soft glow of a single lantern casting its light over a small tiered platform, a family gathered together in a moment of simple, heartfelt celebration. But even then, she set her tone, becoming a little more serious. We knew how important it was. We didn't have all the fancy food or the grand preparations, but we had something that went beyond all that, the tradition itself, the connection to our ancestors. And that was enough. It was a time to reflect on the past and remember those who came before us. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I had always thought of Hinamatsuri as a time for celebration, for food and dolls. But hearing her speak of it in this way, quiet, reflective, and filled with reverence, made me realize how much more it was. It was a time of connection, a time to honor those who had made it possible for us to continue celebrating. We used to tell stories just like this. My grandmother continued, her voice softening with the memory. The women in our family would sit together and we'd talk about the past, about my mother's mother and her mother before that. We shared the same wishes for the girls in our family, and we carried them forward. The dolls were not just toys, they were a way to honor those wishes, to ensure that we never forgot where we came from. Her voice trailed off as she looked into the distance, as though remembering the faces of those who had celebrated Hinamatsuri with her. I could feel the weight of history in the room, a quiet presence that seemed to settle over us as my grandmother spoke. "It's different now, isn't it?" she said, breaking the silence. "The festival has changed. The dolls are grander, the food is more abundant, and the celebrations have become louder, more public. But even with all the changes, the heart of it remains the same. It's still about the wishes we carry for our children, for the girls of our family, and the hope that they will be happy and healthy." I nodded again, but this time there was a deeper understanding in my heart. The festival wasn't just about how much food we had or how elaborate the decorations were. It was about the quiet moments, the shared time with family. and the wishes for the future that had been passed down through the generations. The tradition had evolved, yes, but the essence of it had never changed. "I know it's different now," dear my grandmother said, as if reading my thoughts. "But I want you to remember that no matter how the world changes, you carry the stories of those who came before you. The dolls, the food, the celebrations, they're all part of that story, and you are part of it too." Her words filled me with a sense of pride. I looked at the hina ningyo on the table, each doll standing with purpose, each one representing something greater than just a piece of tradition. They were the embodiment of our family's hopes and dreams passed down from generation to generation. "I will remember Grandma," I said quietly, my voice thick with emotion. "I will carry these stories forward, just like you have." She smiled, her hand resting gently on mine, the warmth of her touch, a comfort that seemed to transcend time. There was a quiet strength in her eyes, a knowing that came from years of experience and wisdom. "I know you will, my dear," she said softly, her voice filled with both pride and tenderness. "And when you share this tradition with your children, one day you'll see just how much it means. You'll feel it deep inside in the way it connects you to the past and to all those who came before us. It's not just a tradition, it's the thread that connects us all." Her words hung in the air like a promise, like a seed planted in my heart that I knew would grow with time. I could almost picture it one day when I was the one arranging the dolls with my own children, telling them the stories my grandmother had shared with me. It was more than just a festival. It was a way of keeping alive the love, the memories, and the values passed down through generations, tying us all together across the years. Her hand lingered on mine, the gentle pressure, a reminder that these moments were precious, fleeting. The significance of Hinamatsuri, of every ritual, every small act of love, was not lost on me. It was not just about the dolls, the food, or the games. It was about continuity, about love enduring through time. The love, the care, the tradition, it lives on in you now. She continued, her voice thick with emotion. And one day, when you share this with your children, you'll see it reflected in their eyes, just as I saw it in yours. That's how we carry it forward, my dear. Through love, through memory, and through the way we pass it on. I held her hand a little tighter, feeling the weight of her words, understanding in that moment that I was now part of something larger than myself, a continuation of the love and hope that had come before me and that would continue long after I was gone. As the evening wore on and we shared stories of the past, I couldn't help but feel the weight of the generations behind me. The tradition of Hinamatsuri, like everything else in our lives, had evolved over time. The elaborate feasts, the grand displays, those were the things that had changed. But at its heart, the festival remained the same. It was about family, about honoring the past, and about carrying forward the hopes and wishes of those who came before us. As I sat with my grandmother, her stories weaving through the air like threads of memory, I understood that the essence of the festival was not in the size of the celebration, but in the love and care that we put into it. And that was something that would never change, no matter how much time passed. The evening of Hinamatsuri arrived with a sense of excitement that seemed to ripple through the air. The house was alive with laughter and the soft murmur of voices as family and friends gathered to celebrate. The tables were filled with delicious food, the dolls stood proudly on their platform, and the lanterns cast a warm glow over everything. But it wasn't just the food or the dolls that made this night special. It was the laughter of children, the songs we sang, and the games we played together. I could feel the excitement building in my chest like a warm fire spreading through me. For the first time, I was going to take part in the songs and games that my mother and grandmother had spoken of so fondly, the ones that had been passed down through generations of girls in our family. I had always watched from the sidelines, too young to fully join in. But tonight, it was my turn. "Mama, are we going to sing the songs now?" I asked, my voice bubbling with anticipation as I tugged at her sleeve. She smiled at me, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "Yes, dear. We will sing the songs, and we'll play the games too. It's all part of the celebration. You'll see it's a time for joy, for laughter, and for honoring the spirit of the festival." I couldn't wait. The evening air was cool, but the warmth of the festival made it feel like the entire world was wrapped in a comforting embrace. We gathered in the living room, where the older women of the family sat in a circle, their voices blending together in a harmonious melody as they began to sing the traditional Hinamatsuri songs. The soft notes filled the room, a reminder of the beauty and serenity of the festival. The song they sang was one I had heard many times but never fully understood. As the melody danced in the air, my mother took my hand and pulled me closer to the circle. "This song," she said, her voice low and gentle, "is about the wishes we hold for you, for all the girls in our family. It's about the joy and harmony we wish for you as you grow." The words seemed to float in the air, their meaning sinking deep into my heart. The song wasn't just about the joy of the festival. It was a prayer, a wish, a hope for happiness and well-being. As I joined in, my voice trembling at first, I realized that these songs carried more than just notes. They carried the love and hopes of every woman who had sung them before me. After the song, it was time for the games. The other children gathered eagerly, their faces bright with excitement. The first game was a traditional one called hina, where we threw small rice crackers at each other while singing a playful rhyme. We took turns tossing the brightly colored crackers, trying to hit each other while avoiding being hit ourselves. The laughter that filled the room was infectious, and I couldn't help but laugh as the others dodged and laughed along with me. "Catch me if you can," I cried, dodging a rice cracker as it flew toward me. It felt like the whole world was light and carefree just like the game itself. There was something so joyful about it, something so pure in the way we all connected through this simple yet lively tradition. After a few rounds of hina arare, the next game began. It was called Torigo, where we formed a circle and tried to capture each other's hands while singing a rhythm. The game was simple but full of energy, and I could feel my heart racing as we sang the lively tune together. As I grabbed the hand of my sister, we both burst into laughter, the joy of the moment filling me from the inside out. Mama sat nearby, watching with a soft smile, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the evening. She called out instructions in a sing-song voice, reminding us to be careful, be kind, and always play together. The simple games and songs were not just about fun. They were about the values we carried as a family. The spirit of Hinamatsuri. Mama explained wasn't just in the dolls or the food, but in these moments of joy and togetherness. As the night wore on and the songs continued, I felt myself becoming part of something much larger than just our family. These traditions, passed down through the generations, connected us to the past in a way I had never felt before. The songs were like whispers from the women who had come before us, their voices carried on the wind, their wishes and hopes now woven into my own. By the end of the evening, my heart felt full, as if the joy and laughter had seeped into my very bones. We sang and played, surrounded by the warmth of family and the light of the lanterns. The world outside seemed far away, and all that mattered in that moment was the connection we shared. These traditions were more than just rituals. They were the thread that connected us all, linking the past, present, and future with love and laughter. That night, as I lay in bed, the images of the dolls, the games, and the songs swirled in my mind. I knew that this Hinamatsuri would stay with me forever, not just because of the food or the dolls, but because of the joy, the unity, and the love that filled every moment. I had learned something new, something deep about my family, about the past, and about the way our traditions keep us connected. And as I drifted to sleep, I felt grateful for the simple joy of being part of something so beautiful and timeless. The evening after the festival was quiet. The laughter and excitement of Hinamatsuri had faded, leaving behind the soft sounds of the night and the gentle flicker of lanterns. The dolls, once the center of our celebration, now stood solemnly on their tiered platform, their faces peaceful, but somehow heavy with the weight of the wishes they carried. The emperor and empress, surrounded by their attendants, musicians, and guards, seemed to wait patiently for what was to come next. "Mama?" I asked softly, looking up at her as she walked toward the dolls. "What happens to them now? Do we leave them here until next year?" Mama smiled at me, her eyes warm with understanding. She had always told me that Hinamatsuri was not just a festival, but a ceremony, a way to honor the past and ensure good fortune for the future. She reached out and carefully lifted the emperor and empress, holding them gently in her hands as if they were precious beyond measure. "No, my dear," she said, her voice filled with a quiet reverence. "The dolls cannot stay here. They must go on a journey to carry away any bad spirits and bring us good fortune." It's a very old tradition, one that has been passed down for many generations. I looked at her, my heart swelling with a mix of curiosity and sadness. I had grown so fond of the dolls, their presence feeling almost like a constant companion in our home. The idea of sending them away, of letting go of the very symbols that had brought us joy, was hard to understand. Mama seemed to sense my feelings. She knelt beside me, her hand gently resting on my shoulder. "It's not a goodbye, my child. It's a way of trusting in tradition, in the rituals that have been passed down to us. The dolls have done their work. They have protected us, carried our wishes, and now it's time for them to journey down the river, to take away any bad spirits, and ensure that happiness will return next year." She stood, holding the dolls carefully in her hands, and motioned for me to follow her outside. The night was still, the air cool but soft, and the world seemed to have slowed down, as if it too understood the importance of this moment. We walked together down the path that led to the river, the lanterns casting long shadows behind us. The only sound was the gentle rustling of the leaves and the soft flow of the water ahead. When we reached the riverbank, Mama knelt by the water's edge, setting the emperor and empress down gently on a small wooden boat. She tied the boat with a thin thread of twine, careful not to let it drift away too soon. "This is the part where we let go," Mama whispered. "We trust in the journey, in the tradition that has guided us for so long." I stood beside her, watching the boat carefully, my heart full of conflicting emotions. There was a sadness in letting go, in releasing something so important, but there was also a deep sense of peace, as if I were being part of something larger than myself, something that connected me to those who had come before me. "Don't be afraid to let go." Mama continued, her voice soft as she met my gaze. "The dolls carry our wishes, our hopes for the future. They take away any worries, any fears, and they bring back peace and happiness. It's the way of the world. Sometimes we have to trust in the journey, even when we don't know exactly where it leads." With that, she gently pushed the boat into the water, and I watched as it floated away, slowly carried downstream by the current. The dolls, the emperor and empress, seemed so small on the boat, but I knew their significance was far from small. They held our wishes, our hopes for the future, and with every ripple in the water, they seemed to take away the weight of the past year, preparing the way for the one to come. I watched the boat drift farther, the lanterns on the riverbank flickering softly in the distance. The gentle current carried the dolls away, and I felt a sense of release, of letting go. It wasn't just about the dolls. It was about the trust we placed in tradition, in the belief that this ritual would carry us through the year, ensuring our happiness, health, and protection. "Mama," I said quietly, my voice full of newfound understanding. "I think I understand now. It's about trusting in something bigger than ourselves, something that has always been there." Mama nodded, her smile warm in the dim light of the lanterns. "Yes, dear. It's about believing in the power of tradition, in the strength that comes from connecting with those who came before us. We let go of the old, and we make room for the new." We stood together, watching as the boat disappeared into the distance, carried away by the flow of the river. In that moment, I felt the weight of the past and the hope for the future all at once. The dolls were no longer just figures on a shelf. They were symbols of everything we held dear. And now, they had gone on their journey, taking away our worries and bringing us closer to the new year, to a future filled with new possibilities. As we walked back toward the house, the night felt different, quieter, as if the world itself had been cleansed and renewed. I knew that the journey of the dolls was not just about letting go. It was about embracing the future with hope, with trust, and with the understanding that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. The days following Hinamatsuri were always filled with a quiet kind of peace. The excitement of the festival faded, but in its place was something more enduring, a sense of connection that lingered in the air like the warmth of the sun after a long, gentle rain. As I sat in the living room, the dolls now carefully stored away for the year, I found myself reflecting on the festival in a way I hadn't before. It wasn't just about the songs, or the food, the games, or the dolls. It was about something deeper, something that tied us to the past, to the generations that had celebrated before us. One afternoon, as I sat beside my grandmother, who was knitting quietly by the window, I asked her a question that had been on my mind since the festival had ended. "Grandma," I began softly, "why do we do all this? I mean, I know it's about celebrating, but it feels like there's something more. It's like the dolls and the songs and the games. They're not just for us. They're for something else, something bigger." She looked up from her knitting, her eyes gentle as she studied my face. After a moment, she put down her needles and patted the seat beside her, inviting me to sit. "Ah, my dear," she said, her voice warm with the kind of wisdom only years of life could bring. "You're starting to understand, aren't you? Hinamatsuri is not just about today, not just about the food or the fun. It's about honoring those who came before us, those who made it possible for us to live the lives we have now." I sat down beside her, eager to hear more. The room was still the light from the window, casting soft shadows on the tatami mats. Outside, the world was quiet, the hustle of the festival now just a memory. But inside, I felt something stirring, a connection, like a thread weaving through time. Hinamatsuri Grandma continued has always been a way to honor our ancestors. When we place the dolls on the platform, we're not just decorating. We're remembering those who came before us, the women who celebrated this very festival, who placed their hopes and wishes for their daughters, just as we do for you. I looked at her, my heart swelling with a mixture of understanding and reverence. You mean, the dolls are for them too? Grandma nodded, her expression softening. Yeah, every year, when we celebrate, we are honoring not just our own wishes, but the spirits of our ancestors. We believe that when we place the dolls, when we sing the songs, and when we gather as a family, we are connecting with those who have passed. Their spirits are with us, watching over us, guiding us. The idea struck me with a deep sense of awe. I had always thought of Hinamatsuri as a time to celebrate the present, the joy of being together, the beauty of the dolls, the fun of the games. But now, I began to see it as something more, something sacred, something that bridged the past with the present, a bridge that connected me to those who had come before. Do you remember your mother doing the same thing, Grandma? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Grandma smiled, a faraway look in her eyes. Oh yes, I remember. My mother. Your great-grandmother would sit with me just as I am sitting with you now, and she would tell me the stories of our ancestors, of the women in our family who had celebrated Hinamatsuri long before us. She taught me how to honor them, how to place my hopes and wishes in the dolls, and how to remember the women who had come before me. She paused for a moment, her hands resting in her lap, and I could feel the weight of her words. When you celebrate, you are keeping their spirits alive. Every year, their memories live on in you. That's why it's so important to pass these traditions down so that we never forget. A sense of peace settled over me as I sat there taking in the quiet wisdom of my grandmother's words. I thought about the dolls, about the emperor and empress, the attendants and musicians, and how they had represented not just our family's wishes, but the wishes of all the women who had celebrated before me. Their hopes for their daughters, their families, their futures, all of that was embedded in the tradition passed down through the generations. I never really thought about it like that. I said quietly, my voice filled with wonder. I thought it was just something fun, but it's so much more. It's like we're all still here, even though they're gone. Grandma's eyes twinkled as she reached out to gently pat my hand. Exactly. They live on in us through our traditions, through our memories, and through the way we keep their stories alive. Every time you celebrate, you are honoring them, keeping their spirit with you. In that moment, I felt a deep connection to the women of my family, to the generations of mothers and daughters who had come before me. The dolls, the songs, the games, they weren't just for us. They were a link in a long chain. A chain that stretched back through time unbroken, with each generation adding their own hopes and dreams to the story. As the evening settled into night and I sat with my grandmother, I realized that Hinamatsuri was no longer just a festival. It was a celebration of life itself, a way of connecting with the past, of honoring those who had shaped us, and of carrying their hopes forward into the future. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the ancestors who had paved the way for the tradition that bound us all together, and for the deep, unspoken bond that connected me to them. The days after the festival always felt quieter somehow, as if the energy and joy of Hinamatsuri had left an imprint on the house, lingering in the corners long after the laughter had faded. The vibrant colors, the warmth of family, and the sweetness of the songs seemed to hang in the air like a soft echo that continued to resonate even in the stillness that followed. It was as though the spirit of the festival had seeped into every room, every nook, and was now woven into the fabric of our home, a quiet reminder of the joy we had shared. As I sat on the porch one afternoon, the soft wind rustling through the trees, I found myself lost in thought, my gaze wandering out over the garden, where spring was unfolding in all its glory. The branches swayed gently in the breeze, and the distant hum of life outside seemed to match the quiet stirrings within me. My thoughts drifted back to that first Hinamatsuri, the one where it all began to make sense for me. That day, I had felt something stir deep inside, something I couldn't quite put into words at the time. The dolls, the songs, the games, they had all seemed like simple traditions, but beneath the surface there was so much more. I remembered the way the dolls had looked the emperor and empress standing so solemnly on their tiered platform, their faces calm and regal, holding within them more than just the wishes for the present year. They held the legacy of generations, the love and hopes of those who had celebrated before us. That first festival, everything had clicked into place for me. It wasn't just about the ceremony, the food, or the games. It was about something much deeper, a connection to the past, to family, and to the tradition that had been passed down through the generations, a living thread connecting us all. The memory of that day stayed with me as the quiet afternoon unfolded, and I realized that the impact of Hinamatsuri had lingered far beyond the festivities. The joy we had felt together had planted something in my heart, something that would continue to grow and shape the way I saw the world. The festival wasn't just a part of our history. It had become a part of me, a guiding force that would remind me of the importance of family, of tradition, and of remembering those who came before us. I had been young, yes, but that day had etched itself into my heart with a clarity I could still feel even now. The dolls on the platform, the songs we sang, the games we played, it was all so vivid, so full of life. But what struck me now, looking back, was how much more that first celebration had meant than I could ever have realized in the moment. It wasn't just the excitement or the festivities. It was the way I had felt connected to something much bigger than myself. It was the deep, silent bond I had formed with the women in my family, with the generations before us, and with the very essence of our heritage. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the memories wash over me. The gentle flicker of lanterns, the sweet smell of shirozake in the air, the joyful noise of our family gathering around the table. It wasn't just the celebration that had moved me, it was what it represented. That first Hinamatsuri had shown me the importance of tradition, of honoring the past, and of maintaining the ties that bind us to our ancestors. It was a moment of realization, a moment when I understood how these rituals, these celebrations were more than just annual events. They were the thread that connected us to our roots. I had watched my grandmother sit beside me sharing stories of her own Hinamatsuri celebrations. Stories that had been passed down through generations. Her voice, filled with emotion, had opened my eyes to the deep significance of each act, placing the dolls, singing the songs, sharing the food. I had always thought of Hinamatsuri as a day of joy, but now I understood that it was a living tradition, a way of preserving our culture, of carrying the hopes and dreams of our ancestors forward. I remembered standing by the river that night, watching the dolls drift away on the current, and feeling that profound sense of letting go, of trusting in the ritual, in the tradition, and in the invisible threads that connected us all. That moment had been so symbolic, so filled with emotion. And it was then that I realized just how deeply Hinamatsuri had shaped who I was, how it had woven me into the fabric of my family's history. Sitting there on the porch, I felt a swelling in my chest, a feeling of pride and belonging. It wasn't just the dolls or the games that had made this festival important. It was the deeper understanding that had begun to grow inside me. Hinamatsuri was not just a celebration of the present, but a way to preserve our cultural identity, to keep our heritage alive. It was a reminder that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, that the traditions we follow are the lifeblood of our history, and they shape the future of those who come after us. In that moment, I realized how lucky I was to be part of something so rich, so deeply rooted in love and respect for those who had come before. The songs we sang, the games we played, they were not just for fun. They were the voices of the past, echoing in the present, reminding us to honor the ties that bind us to our ancestors, to the generations who had celebrated the same way, who had placed their hopes and dreams in the dolls just as we did now. Hinamatsuri had taught me more than just the names of the dolls or the rituals we followed. It had shown me the importance of family, of tradition, and of remembering. As the years passed, the celebration would change, and I would grow older. But this moment, this understanding would stay with me. It was the emotional impact of the festival. The realization that it was not just about the joy of the present, but about honoring the past and carrying it forward with love and gratitude. I opened my eyes, letting the soft wind carry away the weight of my thoughts, and looked out over the garden. The world outside had shifted with the seasons, just as it always did. But in my heart, the traditions of my family remained constant, like the steady flow of a river. I knew now, more than ever, that these traditions would continue to shape me, just as they had shaped the generations before me. And when the time came, I would pass them on to the next generation, just as my grandmother had done, and my mother before her. Because Hinamatsuri wasn't just a festival, it was a promise that we would never forget where we came from, and that we would carry the legacy of our ancestors with us always. As the days of the festival faded into memory, I found myself standing quietly by the river one evening, the place where we had sent the hina dolls on their journey. The sky was painted with shades of pink and gold. As the sun began to set and the air was calm, filled with the sounds of nature preparing for night. The river, which had carried the dolls downstream, now flowed peacefully, its current gentle and steady. I stood there, reflecting on everything that had happened, everything I had learned, and everything that had been passed down to me. The festival had come to an end, but its impact had stayed with me. More than just the dolls, the songs, or the games, I had come to understand the deeper meaning of Hinamatsuri. It was a celebration of family, of history, and of the unbroken thread that connected generations. It was a reminder that we were part of something much larger than ourselves, something that reached back through time and would continue on into the future. As I stood by the river, the evening light softening the world around me, I realized that I was now a part of that thread. Just as my ancestors had placed their hopes and wishes in the dolls, I now carried those hopes with me. I felt the weight of the tradition, of all the generations that had celebrated, of all the mothers and daughters who had come before me. I felt a deep responsibility not just to honor the past, but to ensure that this tradition would live on. With a quiet resolve, I made a promise to myself, a promise that I would carry for the rest of my life. I will carry this tradition forward, I whispered to the wind, the words falling softly from my lips. I will keep the spirit of Hinamatsuri alive. I will pass it on to my children, just as it was passed to me. I felt a surge of hope as I spoke the words aloud, a promise that felt solid and true. It was not just a promise to my family, but to the generations who had walked this path before me, to the ones who had placed their wishes in the dolls and sent them down the river, trusting that the tradition would continue. I thought about my future children, about how one day I would stand by their side, just as my mother and grandmother had stood by mine, guiding them through the rituals, teaching them the songs, sharing the stories. And I knew that the tradition would live on just as it had for centuries. Hinamatsuri wasn't just about the dolls or the food or the games. It was about the values we carried with us, the importance of family, of connection, and of honoring those who came before us. These values were timeless, passed down from mother to daughter, from grandmother to granddaughter, a thread woven through generations. And it was my responsibility, my privilege, to keep that thread strong, to ensure that it never frayed, that it never broke. As I looked out over the river, the setting sun casting its golden light on the water, I felt a deep sense of peace. The dolls had completed their journey, but my own journey was just beginning. The tradition of Hinamatsuri was more than just a celebration. It was a living, breathing part of my identity, something I carried with me, something I would one day pass on to others. I promise, I said again, this time with even more certainty, I will keep this tradition alive. I will honor the past, and I will carry it into the future. In that moment, I knew that the future was not something far off. It was something I was already a part of. The legacy of Hinamatsuri, of all the women in my family, would continue on, woven into the fabric of my own life. And as I made that promise to the future, I felt a deep sense of connection, of continuity, of hope. The river, flowing gently before me, was a symbol of that continuity. It moved forward, carrying everything with it, everything from the past, everything from the present, and everything that would come in the future. The tradition would continue, just as the river did, forever moving, forever carrying forward the hopes, the dreams, and the love of all those who had come before. And as the last light of day faded into night, I knew that the spirit of Hinamatsuri would live on not just in the dolls or the traditions, but in the hearts of all those who honored it. The promise I had made was not just my own. It was a promise shared by all those who believed in the importance of family, of culture, and of the enduring power of love. As we've seen today, Hinamatsuri is not just a festival for dolls. It's a celebration of family history and the delicate passing of traditions from one generation to the next. It's a time to honor those who came before us, to reflect on the values they passed down, and to ensure that the bonds of love, hope, and culture are never forgotten. For my dear granddaughter, the memories of her first Hinamatsuri will forever remain in her heart, just as they remain in mine. That first experience when she truly understood the meaning behind the dolls, when she felt the presence of our ancestors watching over us, marked a turning point in her life. It wasn't just about the festival. It was about connecting with something far deeper, something eternal. I can already see it in her eyes, the quiet resolve, the promise she made to herself. She will carry these traditions forward. And one day, when she has children of her own, she will pass it down to them. just as I did with her. She will teach them the songs, the stories, the rituals, ensuring that the spirit of Hinamatsuri lives on in her family, just as it has in ours for generations. It fills my heart with such pride to see that the flame of tradition will continue, that the love and wisdom of our ancestors will never fade. And I know in my heart that she will carry it with grace and strength, just as she always has. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this journey through time has inspired you to pause and appreciate the simple joys of tradition, the ones that remind us who we are and where we come from. As we reflect on the beauty of Hinamatsuri, I encourage you to always remember to cherish your roots, the traditions that have shaped you, the values that give you strength, and the precious memories you create along the way. It's these moments, these stories, that weave the fabric of our lives and carry us forward generation after generation. Take care, my dear friends, and good night. May your dreams be filled with the warmth of family, the soft embrace of love, and the enduring spirit of tradition. Hold on to those precious moments, the ones that truly matter, and let them continue to guide you and light your path in the days ahead. For in those quiet moments, we find the true magic of life, the love, the laughter, the memories, and they are yours to carry forever. I look forward to sharing more stories with you in the next video. Until then, keep these moments close to your heart. Continue to pass down the love, the stories, the traditions that connect us all. Because when we share them, we keep them alive, and they live on in each of us. See you soon, and may your journey be filled with all the beauty and warmth this world has to offer.